Hi there, I'm Matt Donnelly of RotoBaller, and it is officially week number 1 of the 2023 fantasy football season. So let's kick things off with those starts and sits at the running back position. And I'm not talking about the easy one here. I'm not taking the low-hanging fruit here. We know that you are starting Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, and yes, more than likely, Bijan Robinson each and every single week. So let's talk about those running backs that you can plug and play in week number 1, starting with a dynamic duo in the nation's capital there, Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson against the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona, they are hurting in a bad way, and Eric Bieniemy, he's out to prove that he's an offensive genius and probably shouldn't be overlooked when coaching vacancies come up in 2024. Now, the script is going to be much the same this season as it was last season for the Cardinals, who got behind early in games just to watch teams run out the clock with their running game. Backs averaged 24.7 fantasy points per game. So even if you split that up between Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, who are a traditional 1A, 1B, you're going to have fantasy value. Speaking of fantasy value, how about another running back you can start this week in J.K. Dobbins against the Houston Texans? Todd Monken's the new offensive coordinator there in Baltimore, and he's already gone on record as saying he wants Lamar Jackson to run the ball less. The best way to have Jackson run the ball less is to run it more with J.K. Dobbins. A season ago, Texans defense, they allowed over 2,400 rushing yards, nearly 250 more yards on the ground than the next closest team. You know what? You may even be able to gas up the old Gus Bus here and fire him up in the second half of this contest, because this game could be over by halftime. How about a third back in Raheem Mostert against the Los Angeles Chargers? When you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the outside, teams tend to forget that they have to defend the run. Then again, the Chargers, they basically forgot to defend the run altogether in 2022. Los Angeles was torn up on the ground to the tune of 2,164 yards and 14 touchdowns last season, and their answer to this was to go out there and sign a 31-year-old Eric Kendricks. Yeah, it's probably not going to get the job done. One more running back? Yeah, I got one more running back for you. How about Khalil Herbert versus the Green Bay Packers? Remember week number 2 of the 2022 season when David Montgomery ran for 122 yards on just 15 carries? That's 8.1 yards per carry. He also would run for 4.4 yards per carry in the second meeting. As good as David Montgomery is, Khalil Herbert, he's even more explosive. Last season, Herbert was 6th amongst running backs, averaging 3.3 yards per carry after contact. Even if Packers defenders find a way to get their hands on Herbert, there's no guarantee it's even going to matter. In 6 games without Montgomery, Herbert would go on to average over 16 fantasy points per game. So how about a couple sits? Well, I'm going to sit Jamal Williams against the Tennessee Titans with no Alvin Kamara and a banged up Kendre Miller. People may think that Williams is a sneaky play. It's week number 1. People, don't get cute. Jeffrey Simmons and the Tennessee Titans, they held opposing backs to the second fewest fantasy points per game just a season ago. The second back that you need to sit is James Conner, and this one hurts because I love James Conner, but Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen, they are tough to run up against in the middle. Listen, this is the tower of power of defensive linemen here, and Washington, they only allowed 1,331 rushing yards, which was the 5th fewest a season ago. Not to mention, they only gave up 8 touchdowns to running backs. Now proceed with caution with a couple backs coming back from injury, and that's Breece Hall and Javonte Williams. Now both the Jets and the Broncos are going to ease both their star running backs back into the lineup, so I would not expect them to get much fantasy production here in week number 1. So to sum everything up, here are the running backs you're starting and sitting in week number 1. You're starting Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, who have great matchups against a dysfunctional Cardinals team. Eric Bieniemy, he's going to be looking to get Robinson and Gibson plenty of touches to make him look like a genius. Number 2, J.K. Dobbins, you're starting him against the Houston Texans. It's not fair. The Ravens, they're going to get out early in this contest and just run this game right out with their run game. Gus Edwards, another great value in deeper leagues. Raheem Mostert, he's facing the Chargers team that couldn't stop the run last season, giving up the second most rushing yards. Start Mostert while you can. And Khalil Herbert is finally giving you an opportunity to get things done, and we've seen what he can do when he has an opportunity. You're sitting Jamal Williams against a Titans team that's stout against the run. Jamal Williams' experience is fun while it lasted. And James Conner is also a sit against the Commanders. I don't know if the game script's going to allow him to be a factor in the run game, and Payne and Allen are going to make it a long day inside. Be sure to like and subscribe to the RotoBaller YouTube channel for plenty more great fantasy football analysis. Pitter patter, let's get at her. The 2023 season is finally here.